Hello, good evening, and welcome to the second hour of Timeless Ribbons with me, June Furlong, taking you through to 8 p.m. That was Bobby King with Lovequake. Big hello to Tessa Paul, who's listening. Great to have your company, Tessa. And hello to Veronica. Great to have your company, Veronica. Very honoured as well. I'm now in the company of Mr. Bob Sworaski. Welcome to Solar Radio, Bob. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much.
How are you enjoying your trip to London?
I love the city.
Good. Is it your first trip?
Yes, it is. It's my first trip to abroad.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been to Canada and Mexico, but that kind of doesn't count because there's no big ocean in between. But it's been wonderful. The city's been wonderful to me, and certain people that I met over here have been awesome. I mean, it has been, and the musical culture here is fantastic.
And so what have you been doing?
Well, to tell you the truth, I was going to see more of the sights, but I've been spending every night out watching bands and meeting musicians. And
that's the best way for a musician to see London.
Wonderful. As you know, I went to Ronnie Scott's the one night.
Yes, it was great to have you there.
Yeah, saw Diodato, saw you as the DJ, which I had a great time. By the way, I got home at 4 a.m. that night.
You dirty stop out.
It was a lot of fun. Went to the Florippa and saw Jessica Lauren, who is a monster keyboard player.
Indeed.
And we're now pretty good friends. And I did drag Colin to the British Museum, who's a Londoner who never been there.
Shame on you, Colin Brown. Shame on you.
But it was wonderful, and on the way over here we stopped at Abbey Road, and I got my picture on the street.
Did you cross the road with the traditional?
I was standing in the middle of the street.
Fantastic.
And they stopped. So that's, I've had a wonderful time here so far, and the music, the people, everything has been lovely. It's been great.
Okay. Now, you were born in Philadelphia.
Yes.
And you moved to New Jersey, Mount Laurel,
yes,
as a child. And I know you were encouraged by your parents to take accordion lessons, which you did for 8 years.
Yes.
But you decided to take piano lessons. Was the piano your first love?
Yes. Any keyboard instrument was my first love.
Okay.
It's funny because I even started writing on accordion. I actually played in an original band when I was 16 on an accordion.
Wow.
And then the portable organs came out, which was the Farfisas. For all the musicians out there, you'll know how outdated that is. And then I moved up and I was starting to play electronic pianos. I had a B3 Hammond and I moved tons of equipment all over the place. But been playing in bands and original bands and recording for quite a long time.
Okay. Is there any other musical instrument you've always hankered after playing?
Well, I would love to be able to play guitar the way some of my friends play guitar. I can pick at it and things like that. I actually played a little flute in college.
Wow.
Gave that up because my lips didn't work too well on the flute, so I couldn't really pull it off. But with today's keyboard instruments, I can basically play any instrument. And
fantastic.
I've done, in fact, on the record, I've done a lot of string arrangements and things like that that were actually played with some very upscale sampling programs. And so now the guitarists are jealous of me because they say, well, you're always in tune, you can do anything you want, you can create any sound, and all we can do is create tone. And I was like, hey, together we can make some great music. So that's...
So tell me, how did the genre project come about? How did the name come about?
Well, I write in many, many different genres. Over the years, I've written gospel, country, pop, reggae, everything. In fact, I probably have about 100 sketches in my computer that I'm trying to get a vocalist and some people to do.
I think that's why I like your music so much, because, you know, I play music from so many different genres on the show. I play reggae, you know, a bit of everything. And I think your music is so apt for my show because it fuses together into one big amazing sound.
Well, I called it the genre project because I played in so many different genres, and I was like, how can I tie them all together? And I actually looked up the definition of genre. I have it actually on the record. And it's a combination of improvisation style and some different things. So what I try to do is stretch out and not really be jazz and not really be fusion, but be a fusion of all of it that is the genre project, but has a style of my own.
Yes.
And I've had people that said I kind of accomplished that because they can still tell it's me and it's written by me, yet it goes in different directions. And that's kind of chancy in today's market, but I've had a lot of success with the way I feel about the record.
Yeah, and I think you have to take chances sometimes because, you know, the actual popular market is so, it all sounds the same, really.
You said it before me. It's cookie cutter, and it is very cookie cutter, especially in the States.
Yeah.
Okay, all the people in the States, don't crucify me now, but it has gotten... Colin and I had to talk about it the other night. In the last 30 years ago, music was in so many different things that was so innovative.
Exactly.
And now, with all the electronic instruments and everything else, nobody takes the time to really learn the craft, learn the history of music.
Well, so much music is now recorded on computer. They don't even have a live sort of studio recording anymore, do they?
Not that many, not as much. The only thing they're doing a lot of live things with is when they're doing big studio violin orchestrations and things like that, movie soundtracks. But on the other side of it, it gives the really good musicians a chance to produce things that they couldn't afford to do in a larger studio. So I think there's pluses and minuses on both sides of that. Yeah.
So we're going to hear a track from the Genre Project. Guilty Pleasures, and the track that you've chosen is The Edge of Sanity, a favourite of mine. How did the recording of that come about, Bob?
That actually was, there's a line in there that I had in my head, which was a rhythmic line. Mm-hmm. And then I put down that rhythmic line, and then I got the idea for the melody. And as I laid it down, I kept thinking, this has got to have a sax in it, it's got to have a sax in it. And I think everybody lives on the edge of sanity once or twice in their life.
Yeah.
I didn't want to call it the edge of insanity because that was kind of a negative connotation. But as it evolved, I've got certain moods and sound effects and different things in there that just smoothed the whole thing out. And I needed a smooth jazz piece on the record. I really wanted to have a smooth jazz piece. And in fact, this song has been picked to be a compilation on a charity CD, which I'll be released end of January with Najee.
Oh, well done.
And Tom Schumann from Spyro Gyra, and some absolutely Grammy Award winner Skip Martin, Walter Beasley, and that should help too. That is all being organized by Paul Ferguson, who is running a charity, and all the money from it goes to the American veterans.
Oh, wow. Well, I know somebody that's listening will be very interested in that, Johnny Usry, who was an American veteran, so he will be really pleased to hear that.
Hello, Johnny. How are you?
Hello to Jean Leone Mix, who's listening in Philly, sending big smiles to you. So we're going to hear that track, Bob.
Oh
Well, we're getting lots of nice comments about that track, Bob. Johnny Asri says it's nicely fused, and to offer you his congratulations and best wishes for success.
Thank you, Johnny.
And Connie said that's one of her favourite tracks as well.
And big shout out to Connie, because without her, I wouldn't be here. And if I may, I just want to shout out to Peg.
Of course you can.
Her birthday tomorrow.
Happy birthday for tomorrow, Peg.
And she has the flu.
Oh.
So I'll be home soon, sweetheart.
Oh.
Feel better.
Oh, that's good to know, isn't it, Peg? He'll be home soon. He's on the plane tomorrow. Let's hope there's not too many cancellations.
I hope not.
Anyway, tell me, Bob, in your long career, who have you worked with?
Let's go way back. In fact, gentleman listening, Gene Leone, we started out together, and we actually managed a recording studio.
Oh, wow.
And so we had people like Teddy Pendergrass, his brother. We had Stevie Wonder's manager was in there doing tracks for different types of
You know,
films
Stevie Wonder is the eighth wonder in my world.
Okay.
He's
Well,
my complete idol.
But I met his manager, and that's in the days of analog with the 2-inch tape and everything else.
Wow.
And as I went on, to be perfectly honest, I took like 15 years off to raise my kids, and got back into it just some years ago, and now I got grandchildren.
Yeah, well, that's very commendable for you to do that.
Well, I know a lot of musicians that don't do that, who end up messing up everything because they don't put the right thing first, which is family, and I always did that. And then lately, I've been playing with a lot of fusion and jazz musicians, where we've been trading and almost bartering, so that I get this great musician, he'd say, can you do 4 tracks on my record? I'll do 3 on yours, and whatever else. And they were some of the people on the record. Eddie Cohen, who's a fretless bass player, I played on his record. Sheikh Ndoye, who is originally from Somalia, did the track On Its Time, and it's a phenomenal bass track. But I will say that Greg Tyler, who is a very great musician himself and writer, was the drummer on every one of the tracks, and without Greg and Tony Monzo, the guitar player on there, this record would have never been done. I am getting now, because of this CD, I've got people from California to say, I'd love to play with you, and I mean studio musicians and everything else. So the next 3 to 6 months should be interesting, because now I've got this network of people that we're all playing together, and with this other CD compilation coming out with some of these great musicians, I mean, I'll have a chance to really do a lot.
Yeah, I know you've been influenced by a lot of musicians. Mm-hmm. Who would you like to work with in the future?
Well, I don't know about working with, but my 2 biggest influences, and we were talking about this off air, were Chick Corea and
great
Keith Emerson.
artist.
Keith Emerson in my youth, and that's where I got to the Hammond organ. I didn't destroy them like he did, but those, and in my music you can hear some of the aggressiveness of that, but I also love Latin rhythms. So there are 2 or 3 tracks on there that have a Latin feel to it with Chick Corea. In fact, one song's called Chick.
Yes.
And it is actually a tribute to Chick Corea.
Wow.
And I would hope to meet him someday, because I know my friend Paul Ferguson knows him, and I'm begging him to.
Do you know if he's heard it yet?
I don't know, but I asked Paul to see if he could pass it on to him, and I'm going to try to find a way to do it too.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
That would be wonderful just to hear that, even if he hated it.
Well, I'm sure it's the ultimate accolade, isn't it, really,
yes,
to have a song named after you.
Yes, it is.
So, well done.
Thank you.
Now we're going to hear another track from the album, appropriately called It's Time. How did that recording come about, Bob?
That recording came about, I wrote a song about 25 years ago that was on an album. It was actually a rock opera back when rock operas were the thing, when The Who was coming out with Tommy and everything else.
Yeah, now was this when you were in the group with the very racy name?
No, you're talking about Sex Rodeo?
Yes.
No, Sex Rodeo actually was a thing that I did about 15 years ago, and all the original members of Sex Rodeo are listening to it. You got to admit, it captures your imagination.
It did capture my imagination.
we actually were on the road for a little bit. We opened up for Blessed Union of Soul and Cheap Trick and a few things like that.
Wow.
But unfortunately, the record company we were with, one of the principals died, and a lot of the company died with it. This was actually with a group called Great Pride, and we did I wrote a rock opera. what happened with its time, there was a certain 8-bar or 16-bar section that I always loved. And I just took that piano piece and I turned it into, I always wanted to do something with it, so I made it. The longer thing, and I wanted to really feature the great musicians that I had on it. And if you notice in it, it's a Latin rhythm, but it has a feature of every musician on the record.
Yeah.
And I attribute it to them. They made it great.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to hear that one now. Anyone who's got any questions for Bob, please inbox me or call me on the usual solar number.
Classic.
You're gonna make your fortune back.
And 21st Century Soul. This is Solar Radio.
The Soul Shack.
The Soul Shack is now in its 15th year. At The Last, a theme place, 73 Shoe Lane, London EC4A 3BQ. On Saturday, the 16th of February, a Valentine's special. Join resident Solar Radio DJs Ash Selector and James Anthony for a soulful experience from the 70s, 80s and the 90s. Doors 10 p.m. till 3:30 a.m. Admission £10. The nearest tube is Chancery Lane on the Central Line. That's the Soul Shack with Ash Selector and James Anthony in its 15th year at The Last on Saturday, the 16th of February. For more information, go to soulshack.com.
For direct access to almost anything you hear on Solar Radio, check out leading UK soul suppliers Crazy Beat Records website on www.crazybeat.co.uk. With a vast mail-order catalogue of deletions and rarities, plus thousands of new and used vinyl and CDs in stock, you're bound to find that elusive cut. Get closer to the source. Call Crazy Beat on 01708 228 678 or log on to www.crazybeat.co.uk.
Opaz is proud to bring you Love Play, 12 sensual ballads from the Opaz archive featuring Martine Giroux. Natasha Campbell.
If I made you my Valentine, would you be afraid to
Cartier Fraser.
remember my name?
This is soul music at its sweetest.
Remember my name.
An Opaz classic with Misha Paris one-on-one. Get inside your quiet storm this Valentine's Day with Love Play from Opaz.
Stay by your side.
Available for just $7.99 from iTunes, Amazon, and all good outlets. Check out opazmultimedia.com for more information. Love Play. Just be careful who you play with.
Hi, this is Steve Johns. You can catch my show, The Outer Circle, every Tuesday from 8 till 10 p.m. In the first hour, we drop an open-minded selection of new jazz, broken beat, funk, hip-hop and soul. Then in the second hour, we get into our house selection and also unveil the brand new Soul Energy House chart. So that's The Outer Circle with me, Steve Johns, every Tuesday from 8 till 10 p.m.
Classic. Classic.
This is 21st Century Soul.
Classic and 21st Century Soul. This is Solar Radio. Solar Radio.
Yes, it is indeed. And welcome back to my interview with Mr. Bob Sworaski. Great to have you here, Bob.
Thank you, June.
I have a question from Connie in Des Moines. Is that right?
That's right.
I got it right. And I can't believe you didn't tell me I was mispronouncing it, Connie, all this time. But anyway, she wanted to know if I could ask Bob about his relationship with our good friend Mikhail Caldwell, who passed away suddenly a couple of years ago. She believed that one of his tracks on his CD may have Mikhail on it. So she wanted to know that.
Connie, you know, I worked with Mikhail a lot. I played on his album, and he was going to play on my tracks, but unfortunately never got to it before he passed away. So, unfortunately that happened. But Mikhail Caldwell is one of my mentors. In fact, I look up to him. He's a very, very talented fusion guitarist. He was also a champion Muay Thai boxer and was one of the sweetest, strongest personality and men that I've respected all my life. And he actually, without him, I wouldn't have had the bass player, the drummer, and a couple other people that are on the CD. He started a fusion group that brought us all together. And he was a remarkable man, and I miss him every day.
Yeah, and he'll be sadly missed. And I'm sure part of the album is a tribute to him as well.
I actually have that on the album cover.
Yeah, I've seen it. So, I know he meant a lot to you.
Yes, he did.
So thank you for that question, Connie. And I know you've been writing lots of nice comments saying you're enjoying the great jazz fusion. Anybody else you'd like to say hello to, Bob?
Well, my friend Ed McCaffrey just texted Colin, and Ed, how you doing? The other people are some of the others in the band that I didn't mention. Eddie Cohen, I think I brought up his album. John Shively, who I've been playing together for years, he was on a couple of those. And my son's best friend, who is 30 years younger than me, I used all the classical and acoustic guitars on the album are from him. And he's learned a lot, and he's come a long way. And Luke, great job.
Yeah, and I know the genre project isn't solely about music. It's also, you want to do lots of other things that encompass it. So tell me more about that, Bob.
I started a company called the Genre Music Group, and what it basically is I would like to work with younger musicians and seasoned musicians, but kind of under that wing produce different types of music and kind of get the younger people, especially that haven't learned the history, to go back to the blues and go back to everything else, to kind of get the classics and mold their style around, instead of just copying Eddie Van Halen or something else.
Yeah.
Of really, getting into the total perspective of music.
Sort of getting the fundamentals.
Yes, and I enjoy doing that. I've worked with some young people, and there's actually over the last 3 months, I have some people that wanted me to produce them and wanted me to do a lot of different things, and I'm like, wait until I get through. I don't have the time right now, but I will get back to you. A few people in Chicago, Thilo J, he wanted me to get into something. That's actually like hip-hop type of stuff, but...
Yeah, well, that encompasses...
That's hot, it's happening, and it's in one of my favorite cities in the country, which is Chicago. So I will get to all that, but I did that because I wanted a umbrella to create sounds, to create music, to create an environment with the younger musicians where I could work with them, and some of the more seasoned musicians that I know could actually work with them to do that. And that's my goal, along with the others. I
can also see you releasing stuff by independent artists under your sort of label as well.
That's what I'm hoping to do, and I have a few ideas already. They are very early in the planning stages, but as soon as I get freed up to be able to tie that all together, that's what I really like to do. Obviously, I'm looking for independent or some kind of distribution in Europe and Asia and the United States. That would really enable me to do that, but I'm working on that. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, I'll keep everything crossed for you.
Yeah, I will too.
Now, we're going to hear your big track, Detonation. Now, we were talking about it off air, and, it's such a good description. So can you tell me all about Detonation, Bob?
Well, when I wrote this, I guess I just watched the news and I saw the economy dropping out, and I saw... I have this thing about someday the world is going to be owned by 3 banks, 3 big box things and whatever, and they're all going to be owned by a shell corporation, and if they ever take their money out, we're all going to explode.
And I think that will happen. It's not it's not unimaginable, but certainly.
Not. And I wanted to write something along those lines. So you hear the ticking clock in the beginning, and then it gets very raucous, and then it gets in the middle, it's like thinking about it. And then it takes you out at the end, and it's a very powerful, raucous piece at one time, and then it has a reggae kind of calm thing in the middle. And I have some effects and things in the beginning that just like take you into different places, like, wow, what's that? It's almost like monstrous.
Yeah.
And then so it's up and down, and it's a scary type of thing to think of when you look into what could happen without violence that could happen to the whole global economy. And this is kind of my emotional response to that.
Well, it's a bit like George Orwell's 1984. That was written a long time ago, but very prophetic. I mean, a lot of what he wrote actually has come true.
Yeah.
So I kind of think your track is kind of akin to that.
Well, it's the only one I've done a video on, and it's on YouTube. It introduces the musicians on it, and then the video is all animated. And I've gotten a lot of hits on it. It's pretty interesting. I did the animation myself, so...
Oh, Mr. Disney, better watch out then.
No, not even close to that.
Or Pixar.
I wanted it to show certain things, and people have liked it, so... It's one of my favorites.
Right, well, Detonation, here we come. that really is some track, Bob. Well done. That really is some track, Bob. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Now I know you like London, so what are your plans for coming back and doing some real music and bringing the rest of the crew?
Well, first I have to get a little more going with the CD and work up some connections and things or whatever else. But I would love to bring the band and put that back together. Right now we're kind of scattered doing other projects. I've already talked to them, and I said, if we get the right situation, would you be willing to do it? And everybody said, absolutely. So London would be a great town to play. I've actually had people in Japan say they'd love to see us over there, because actually most of my downloads have been from the Asian countries, which is pretty interesting. I love these guys, and it would be a fantastic band. And so we'd need about a month to prepare, and I think we could get out there and play, and I think we could turn some heads.
Well, we may see you back in the summer then, actually doing some concerts.
That would be nice.
Let's hope so.
That would be very nice.
Now, where can people get your music, Bob?
My music's available on all the normal places: Amazon.com, iTunes, CD Baby, Google Music, eMusic. There's a couple of that I don't have one here that are only in Europe.
Okay.
But I can't look at them from North America. And also on Spotify, if anybody wants to listen to that. I'm on Reverb Nation if somebody wants to listen to that. So there's plenty of places you can buy it and download it. And I appreciate it.
Good.
Because I really want to make this thing move forward so that I can bring my music and the musicians I work with to the world. And I
think it will
international
happen.
Market.
I think it will happen.
Thank you very much.
Well done, Bob. We're going to leave with Chick, as a tribute to Chick Corea.
That was a tribute to Chick Corea, and someday I hope he hears it and tells me what he thinks.
Well, let's hope he's listening. Well, it's been a real pleasure, Bob. Thank you for taking the time in your busy schedule on your trip to London and coming into the studio.
My pleasure.
It's been a real honour.
Thank you.
Anyone else you'd like to say hello to?
To my two sons, Mark and Ben, and to my beautiful granddaughters, Mallory and Talia.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we're going to leave the interview with the stunning track called Chick. you to the wonderful Mr. Bob Sworaski for coming down and taking the time to let me interview him. We'll be hearing lots more from him, I'm sure. Big hello to Hugh Clark, who's listening, and the next track is just for you, and that's Lamont Dozier and Shout About It.